Слушай, Stalker, во что ты веришь? No, really. Don't give the answer you give to other people. Don't just repeat things because you are told they are true. Forget the money, forget the status, forget everything you've spent your whole life chasing. I don't give a damn about that. When everything is stripped away, when there is nothing left except yourself, what do you truly believe?
In the world of S.T.A.L.K.E.R, there exists a faction that seems to have found the answer. They never doubt, they never question, they never wonder who they are. Most people think they are terrifying because they are brainwashed. I think they are terrifying because they found something the rest of us spend our entire lives searching for. For as long as humanity has existed, we have desperately searched for ways to make the world better. And every dream begins with one simple word: imagine. Imagine a world without war, without fear, without famine and disaster. A world where nobody has to feel alone, where everyone feels like they belong. A world without suffering. And throughout history, people have dreamed of achieving exactly that, but most of the time, they ended up doing the exact opposite. In the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe, the people behind the C Consciousness project believed they had found the answer. They weren't actually trying to destroy humanity, their goal was to try and save it. The problem was that their perfect world required one sacrifice: the individual. Now, it's easy to look at the C Consciousness and see only the evil wasteland horror it had created. The Zone, the Monolith, the very people who lost themselves. But before the experiments, before the brainwashing, there was an idea, a very simple question. What if humanity's greatest source of suffering was humanity itself? The C Consciousness project took that very question, looked at humanity, and saw a problem. Every single one of us exists as a separate mind. Every person has their own desires, fears, ambitions, and beliefs. And that separation can create misunderstandings. It creates conflict. Because when billions of individuals pursue different goals, disagreement becomes inevitable. One person's freedom can become another person's suffering. One's ambition can become another's oppression. One's desire can come at the expense of someone else. From this perspective, individuality appears to be the root of humanity's problems. But there was something the C Consciousness failed to understand. The individual is not only the source of human suffering, it is also the source of everything that makes suffering meaningful. It allows for creativity. A collective can preserve knowledge, but it is the individual who creates something that never existed before. Every painting, every invention, every idea begins with a single mind imagining something different. It allows for morality. A person is not moral simply because they follow the collective. Morality begins when an individual can question it. When someone can look at the world around them and say, "This is wrong." Individuality also provides us with choice. Without it, there is no choice. There is only blind obedience. A perfect society where nobody can choose anything is not peace. It's simply control without resistance. And perhaps most importantly, it allows for love. Love exists because we are separate. Because another person is not just an extension of ourselves, they are someone different. Someone we choose to understand. Someone we choose to protect and care for. So you can already see the same thing that allows humanity to suffer is also what allows humanity to create, to choose, to love, to become something more than a machine following instructions. The C Consciousness wanted to remove humanity's flaws, But in doing so, they risked removing humanity itself. And this is where the monolith comes into play. The monolith is often described as a group of possessed or brainwashed fanatics, people who lost themselves to the zone. But I think viewing them that way misses something important, because the most terrifying thing about the monolith is that they aren't simply controlled. They actually believe. And I am of the opinion that this is exactly what makes them so disturbing to many people. Their faith is not something that exists somewhere in the background of their minds. I mean, think about it. It is at the very center of everything they do. Every decision, every sacrifice, every action, every thought, every
Monolith
is connected back to the belief that gives their existence meaning. Yes, it can be said that the monolith takes away someone's will, but nothing can simply be taken from a person without leaving something behind. The monolith does not only take, it also gives. It gives belonging. Because humans are not built to exist completely alone. We're social creatures. We search for connection, for a place where we belong, a group that tells us you are not alone anymore. It's also about purpose. We search for meaning. Nobody wants to believe their suffering is meaningless. Nobody wants to feel like their existence has no greater purpose. The monolith gives its followers something many people spend their entire lives searching for: a purpose. And perhaps most importantly, the monolith offers absolute certainty. Because being an individual is exhausting. You have to question, you have to doubt yourself and others. You have to make choices without knowing if they are right. The collective removes that burden. You no longer have to ask what your purpose is. It has already been decided for you. You no longer have to ask who you are. The group tells you. And for someone lost enough, that can feel less like a prison and more like freedom. And that is the true horror of the monolith. It's not really about the fact that it destroys the individual by force, but that it convinces the individual that losing themselves was never a loss at all. Disclaimer: this video was not created by the Monolith propaganda department. The Monolith is objectively the greatest faction in the zone. This message has been approved by absolutely nobody.
Monolith.
But this is precisely why the Monolith is so dangerous. In the S.T.A.L.K.E.R universe, the zone exaggerates reality, and I think that that exaggeration is exactly the point. I mean, throughout history, humans have always been tempted by the same idea. The idea that becoming part of something greater can give our lives meaning. A nation, a movement, a belief, an ideology. And to be clear, the scary thing is not that humans are naturally evil. It's that ordinary people can become capable of extraordinary things when their identity becomes absorbed into something greater than themselves. And the problem begins at the very moment a person stops seeing themselves as an individual, and instead starts seeing themselves only as a part of something larger. Because something fundamentally changes at that very moment. Their personal doubts become less important. Their own judgment becomes secondary. The question is no longer, is this right? The question becomes, does this serve the cause? And this is where the individual begins to disappear. Because if the cause is always right, then questioning the cause becomes impossible. A person no longer sees themselves as responsible for their actions. They see themselves as carrying out something greater. This is why fanatic movements and authoritarian systems are so dangerous. They don't just magically transform people into something less than human. They can do something way more sinister. They can convince human beings that surrendering themselves is the highest form of purpose. And this is at the very core of the issue with the Monolith faction. They are not frightening because they are unlike us. They are frightening because the desire that created them exists within all of us. The desire to belong, the desire to matter, the desire to believe that our suffering has meaning. But the story does not end when someone escapes the monolith, because regaining the lost freedom creates another problem: the emptiness. And this is where Strider comes in. Strider wakes up with a terrifying question. If Monolith is not who I am, then who am I? He has lost his identity. He lost his purpose, his belonging. Everything the Monolith gave him was gone. But despite all of that, Strider makes a choice the Monolith could never understand. He chooses to search for himself again. So, he creates Noontide, a group of former Monolithians who choose something the Monolith took away from them: the freedom to decide who they are. In Noontide, there is no grand ideology. There's no voice telling them what to believe. It's just people trying to become people again. But not everyone can accept that emptiness, because when someone loses the thing that gave their life meaning, they are not just left without an answer, they are left without a self. And some people would rather have a painful answer than live with no answer at all. Where Strider looked inward, Faust looked outward. Faust desperately needed something to believe in, because the void left behind by the monolith was too much for him to carry. Faust's tragedy wasn't a thirst for power, nor a desire to become a prophet. Faust created something greater than himself, a new monolith. I think Faust was trying to hide from the one person he could never escape: himself. Before I go, I want to answer a question. A longtime viewer named Kami left a comment under the previous video. She's been around for a long time, and she's always brought some genuinely interesting ideas to these discussions. And she asked a question that really stuck with me. What is the magic of a real monolith? And the more I thought about it, I started wondering if the magic was ever in the stone itself. Maybe it was always in the connection between the monolith and the person standing before it. In my previous video, I talked about how the zone doesn't create different kinds of people, it reveals them. And maybe the monolith does something similar. Maybe it doesn't create faith. Maybe it simply reveals what someone was already searching for. Of course, this is just my interpretation. One of the things I love about S.T.A.L.K.E.R is that it rarely gives you a simple answer. So, I'm curious. Do you think the monolith destroys the individual? Or does it simply reveal how badly we want to stop being one? I'd love to hear what you guys think in the comments below.